Okay, we're back again with John and Brendan and Kieran Ryan here in Dundrum. And how many days are we into the breeding now, lads?
Oh, we're 16 days in now.
16, so 2 weeks and a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have 40 cows served, so there's 39 valid serves and there's 1 repeat so far.
Okay. So let's see what our kind of target is. How many cows are you putting to the bull this year? Out of the group?
We have 52 going to the bull and we have 6 culls.
6 culls. So I'm going to call those culls, we're going to call them do not breeds as such. You have a couple of reasons for those, John, have you?
Age mainly.
Age, okay.
That might change. As I said, we have 1 cow that has shown a problem that she's entered the cull list, and there's another cow going to come back out of it. That has been good. She's an old cow, but she's 10, but she's good on her feet. Her cell count's good, everything's good. So, we have 14 heifers coming in. So the aim is 60 cows again next spring.
Okay.
So that's what we're working for. As I say, we mainly age, age purely.
Mainly age, okay. So because we always want to work off what our eligible cows are, the cows we want to breed. So we've 52 eligible cows in here, and we've got, we have about 40 done. We're hitting into just above that 75% done within about 2 weeks. So we're well on target to get to our 90% in 3 weeks, which is our golden target here. We're well on target there. And you said to me, John, you're expecting a bit of a burst.
Yeah, we had, before we started serving, the 3-4 days beforehand, there was a good lot of heats.
7 or 8.
Yeah. So now, we had 10 yesterday.
Okay.
So that's yesterday and within the last 24 hours, I suppose. But so yeah, I would expect a run now maybe to get us up to that magic figure.
Okay. So and it's interesting because you made the point, Brendan, there, talking about valid serves, and this is one thing we show on the app quite a bit. Is that we've got 40 serves done. We have 39 valid serves and 1 invalid serve. An invalid serve it's generally a repeat that's falling in at the wrong point, right? So we generally start seeing them when the cows are starting to repeat in. So a cow normally repeats at 18 to 24 days. So if we get a normal repeat at 18, 24 days, the first serve was correct and the repeat serve is actually correct, okay? If we get a repeat that's falling in, it's too short or too long, it's falling in at 10, 12, 13 days, we call that an invalid serve. And the likelihood of a cow going in calf that invalid serve is pretty much 0. Now, if we get a lot of invalid serves, we're starting to find out that the heats we're picking up, some of them are not accurate. A lot of them are not accurate. So high level of invalid serves showing up in the app, our heat accuracy is going down. But you're obviously getting a lot of accuracy with your different systems. You've 2, what we see the cows behind us with collars and tail pin.
Initially we were tail pin because the collars weren't on and they weren't on long enough to have a baseline.
Yeah.
So once they kicked in at about 7 days, like that invalid serve now, she was bulled. She came back 10 days, which was the app picked her up in the 10 days. Now she had a weak heat, it was only 54%. But I'm taking it that the first serve she had, we read it wrong.
Yeah. Gotcha.
You know that there was just there was 4 cows that day, and that we missed the tail pin was gone, but obviously she was just someone else rising on.
Yeah.
But other than that, we had no bother. We've had no bother with them.
Yeah, and we have to look at it, and I think a lot of people have experienced. First of all, the only way we can get cows and calves is get semen into them. So we often have to take what we'll call invalid cows because we're not sure whether a cow is bull or not. We'll always advise you to serve them. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because there's no point in trying to be super accurate, and then you're not as efficient. You're not picking as many cows as you should, as you could. But if we see a high number of invalid serves, from our point of view, when we look back at it, we say, okay, hang on here. It may be a reason why conception rates in first service wouldn't be as good. So we have to keep that in mind before we start blaming everything else. If we have a lot of invalid serves, first service conception rates could be a little lower. Okay. There was another figure that you mentioned, Brendan, this potentially empty cow figure that was popping up on farm ops.
38 potentially empty cows at the minute.
So it's a bit confusing, the potentially empty cow one, because we start thinking of, is that telling us how many cows are empty today? But we've served 39, 40 cows. So where are we getting this from? So that figure is cows that we haven't served yet, obviously, but also what the app is calculating out at a 60% conception rate, 40% of what you've served is still not in calf. So it's including those. So it's telling you all the time, you still have cows here that actually are not in calf, even though you have them served. and that influences then the level of bulls you would need to put in if you're switching over to bulls. Does that make sense for you? It kind of adds up.
I suppose there's a lot of information on the app. We don't. Well, I don't probably understand it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't understand
or access it. You know, you see it.
Sure, and often when people are using data and information, the tendency is we do overload, right? And it's almost too much information. But I think the thing is, as long as you see the numbers and you see them reducing or gaining the right way, that you know your potentially empty cows are dropping down, and that generally means then that the bull requirement is starting to drop. And if you did stop doing AI, you have the right number of bulls involved.
Yeah, well, the bull requirements went down from 6 to 1.8, I think, now. So
absolutely, and it will, because as the empty cows or the potentially empty cows are starting to reduce, the bull demand is starting to reduce, and we have the line is a mature bull will serve 3 cows over 2 days. A young bull will serve 3 cows over 4 days. And this is a problem that we often let bulls in too early to try and clean up, or we want to stop AIing because we think we have enough black and white done. We let bulls in too early and we get a calving lull because the bulls don't catch up, right? In fairness to you, you've taken the bull out of the equation completely. Are you going to use any bull this year?
The bull is we bought an Angus bull. He's with the heifers now at the moment. There's like 14 heifers. They were all done with 6. We're going to run with AI for, I suppose, another 3 weeks. Another 3 weeks.
Another cycle.
Weeks. Yeah, another cycle.
Another cycle and see.
And see then where it goes. We're left with, we've only one 16. Of what we picked up for 16, we've only one left to serve.
Okay.
Now we'll see what way that turns out, like what the repeat will be on that. We watch them very tight.
Yeah, I think the collars help as well, because when we have a cow that comes up in heat, it'll give us a time for conventional semen, and then it'll give us a time for sex semen.
Okay.
So we'll say if a heifer comes into heat, we'll hold her longer for the sex semen, so we better get a better conception rate.
Okay, very nice. And you're kind of using the time and using the collar a little bit better.
Deal for the eye man, but
yeah,
he comes. You know,
okay,
he's
so
very local, so
yeah,
it's easy.
Look, and everybody hasn't got that pleasure, right?
No,
and it can be a challenge. I suppose the key thing, back to that whole rule about sex we talked about it the last time. If you're doing AI once a day, only the cows that are stale going off are going for sexed. That super fresh cow, there's no point. We throw a conventional straw.
Being AI too early.
Yeah.
You know, but 24 hours is a long time. So
sure,
you know, you're not ready now, but by 24 hours you're gone. You're
gone over.
It's the window, and I suppose that's more of it. Look, information is great. You know, and the more of it you have, and that's one thing I'd also say about the app. With regard to the cows, I noticed you can look back on what they are, on what their mother was. We one cow there, 1094. She's shown lameness issues already. She's only on camera.
Okay.
When I went back in, I just looked at that. Her mother,
same crack,
was a nightmare.
Okay.
So she's on the call list for next year. Like
absolutely.
Because she is following her mother's footsteps straight away.
And look, and this is really important, because often EBI is criticised. EBI of cows is criticised because it doesn't take into account enough about that type locomotion, all that sort of stuff. The more information we're putting back into that system, the more the genetic proofs are going to start revealing a lot of that. And again, it's very important from a farmer's point of view that we keep taking out those non-functional lines that are not functioning on your farm. They may work on another farm, but they won't work on yours.
We're not too because we don't have a lot. We have small numbers, and you don't have a lot of travelling. You know, I mean, that cow I was talking about, she wouldn't last any length in a big herd with, say, walking a kilometre a day.
Absolutely.
It's gone.
Absolutely, yeah. And cows that survive in a 50, 60 cow herd, absolutely, they're under a different level of stress, different level of pressure.
None of the 10-year-old cows would survive in a big herd.
Yeah.
That's 13-year-old cows.
They're having too good a time, lads. Okay, as long as they're efficient. Yeah, you look after them well. It'll be interesting to see now when you're 21, 22, 23 days are up, and we're starting to get repeats. Your app will start telling you how many heats you should expect per day, right?
Yeah, okay.
But if we're starting to get more than that, it'll give you an indication that maybe your conception rate is not as good as you expected it to be. But give it time to pan out over the weeks, because often when you've had clusters of cows coming together, you'll often get a little burst of repeats, and it'll create a bit of panic. Watch the app and see if you're matching the 7-day expected heats when you're starting to repeat. It'll give you an idea of what's going on.
Anything you can do if you're getting more heat than you would expect. What can you do?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I mean, the first thing we always look, assuming vaccinations are right, assuming the nutrition is right, body condition is right, but have a look at the bull tank. If your bull tank is dropping a lot, or your milk protein is starting to drop, you may have an energy deficient going on, and that's something that that you need to work on immediately. Unfortunately, the horse is often bolted, but it's like your AI timing.
Yes.
Have a look at that. Have a chat with your AI tech. Make sure you're happy with every piece. That's every element of it. I think I think it's important. We also have to look at a time when we're not getting a lot of repeats. If your conception rate seems to be super, be careful of that, because some of those cows might not be showing heat strongly, even though they are empty. And if that happens, in that case, an early scan in June often helps. We can pick up these non-pregnant cows and we can get them back into the system again. Yeah. So there's a couple of things to look at there. Don't panic in the first week or two. As you're coming back, week 4, week 5, keep an eye on the management side of it, and often it sorts it out.
Yeah. I suppose the only other thing would affect you really is the weather, a climatic thing, either very hot weather or something.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, what were you like? What was the year? 2018.
Actually, we were straggling along with that.
Yeah. We were straggling along.
But we would have cows are hanging around, but calving would have been long.
A totally different thing. Yeah. But definitely people have, and we've started to encounter in this island for the first time for a long time, we get heat stress events. Yes. Like last year, I remember looking at it in early July. I think it was early July. We got 29, 30 degrees around Tip. And actually the humidity level was high enough that the cows would have undergone significant heat stress for those particular hours in the day. And that potentially will knock out your conception rates. Right. Yeah. So heat stress, cold stress, nutrition stress, anything like that will bump your conception rates.